Hey, Dave here, built from scratch for July 2021. I've just recorded this whole episode, watched it back and thought you do not speak with enough energy. So this is me trying to speak with a bit more energy to try and actually make this vaguely entertaining. Right, so let's get into it. This month's income has, of course, been £0. I think I mentioned in the last video that I was going to be selling products this month and therefore it wasn't going to be zero, but I haven't quite got around to that. More on that in a second. This month's traffic has been dire as ever. The .site sessions have been 30, but there was a weird spike of 20 hits on the 4th of July, which were fake in one way or another. So actually it's only had 10 sessions. Those 20 sessions were all direct traffic according to Google Analytics, so I don't have any more details on that, but presumably some kind of minor bot incursion. The .co.uk site had 3 sessions, which is hilarious, so no traffic. So the usual point is to say that all the technicalities of the work I've done this month are covered in the Diary of an Entrepreneur article which goes along with this video. Here I'm going to talk in broader terms about what I've been up to, but first, before I get into that, I'm actually just going to go back to the statistics just for a second and point out one good thing, which is that Ahrefs shows that over the last month or so there is one metric which is improving, which is the number of organic keywords which are ranking for the site, for the .site domain, in the sense that they now exist in the top 100 hits in the specific Google SERP for that keyword. One of my pages is ranking for that keyword in the top 100. Wow, that was an awkward way of saying it. So that is an increase from basically 0. I think maybe I've had 1 or 2 keywords that Ahrefs has recognised for some months now, but only 1 or 2, and all of a sudden it's gone up to about 18. So that's nice to see. The keywords in question are almost exclusively the titles of the informational articles that I've placed on the site, which makes sense because they were born of keyword research, and that means that they are phrases that have a little bit of search volume, but they were also specifically picked for being very low keyword difficulty. So if the site was going to rank for anything, it would be those. And whilst they're only ranking most of them in the sort of top 20 to 100 positions, and because they're low keyword difficulty, long tail keywords, they don't have a great deal of associated volume of traffic. Even if you were ranking number 1 for them, you wouldn't be getting that many hits. So put those two things together and it's not surprising that I'm still not seeing any traffic from them. But the good thing is just it's indicative of the fact that Google is seeing the site, it's liking it enough to index and rank some of the pages, and it's doing that with the site having basically 0 authority, which means that, you know, if we get a few links in the future, potentially we'll see some quite big rapid boosts to those pages, and something might start happening. And there is one of those phrases which is actually in position 9. That's the highest performing one, but you know, position 9 is okay. That's page 1. It's for some pretty obscure title of an article, something about how to make PowerPoint full screen on a projector. So I assume, you know, even if you're position number 1 for that, you're probably getting like 5 hits a month or something. But hey, you know. Okay, moving on. What have I actually been doing this month? I've been doing a few other bits and pieces, to be honest, but I have spent some time working on Wave. And that starts with the fact that I've received the tripod projector stands, our own branded tripod projector stands from China. They're now with me physically in the house because I don't have a warehouse, and I don't need a warehouse because I've only got 100 small stands to sell, but we've got them. I've had a look at a couple of them, obviously, and they look pretty decent. The logo that's been applied is when the stand is opened up upside down, which is not ideal. But when it's folded up, there kind of isn't a right way up, so it looks okay. And when it is opened up, in fairness, the logo is sort of maybe about 1.5 inches long and 1 centimetre high, so it's really small. And it's down on the feet of the stand, so really when it's all set up, it's barely noticeable. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone notices that and cares enough to write something about it. I hope not. It wouldn't really bother me, I don't think. Aside from that, I quite like them. I'll talk in a second about the fact that another job I've done this month has been the almost completion of the review content around some of my competitors' stands. And in reviewing a bunch of other stands, it's actually given me increased confidence about the value of the stand that I'm going to be selling. When I first got it as a sample, before I had all these other stands to review, I was a bit dubious about it. Like, I went ahead and bought 100, so I liked it enough to think it was worth a go, but I didn't love it. It's quite thin, it doesn't look amazing, it comes across as quite a basic product. And so I have my doubts how it will perform against others. But now that I've reviewed a bunch of the others, including a handful of good ones, I actually have more confidence in it. Because whilst it isn't as sort of thick and sturdy and attractive as some of its competitors, it does do all the basic stuff that you want from a projector stand, whereas some of its competitors really don't. And even the ones that do everything well, it still has a chance against them because it does all the core stuff properly, and I'm going to be able to sell it for noticeably less than the slightly more competent, higher end competition. So that's good. With regards to how I'm going to sell it, the original plan was to use WooCommerce and Google Shopping ads for reasons that I don't think I'll go into here because it's related to a sort of side project. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm actually going to have a go at selling on Amazon, which is obviously a bit of a no-brainer for a lot of people. It's how they just choose to do things. I think I'm a bit of a control freak in some ways, and I kind of really hate the idea of just selling on Amazon and just, putting all your eggs in one basket, which is a basket which is already known to be controlling and tight with its rules and a bit mercurial about how it treats its sellers. So I really don't love that. But obviously there are the benefits of Amazon. They get however many billions of people a month checking the product. They have all their processes sorted, so it's very easy to buy on there, so you can expect a good conversion rate, all that sort of stuff. And since this is going to be to start off with at least, a limited experiment in e-commerce, I've bought 100 of these stands. For now, I'm just hoping to sell them and then just put that side of things away for a while and perhaps bring it back again in the future. So really what I want is just a fairly quick, easy way of blasting them out, getting them sold, and then leave it. And Amazon sort of achieves that, hopefully. I say sort of, though, because I have started that process, and I found the first few steps actually annoyingly difficult, as is the case with so many of these big platforms. Basically, what's happened is you can list products on Amazon, I think, quite easily if they have there are various unique identifiers you can use. The main one seems to be something called a GTIN, a globally, I don't know, I forget what it stands for, but basically means a unique number that applies to a product and is sort of recognised the world over. If your product has got one of those numbers, and it will do if it comes from any kind of like established manufacturer, then it's easy to list on Amazon. If your product doesn't have one of those and is unbranded, then I think it's quite easy to list on Amazon. You can apply for an exemption, and that's fairly straightforward, so you don't have to have one of these ID numbers, and then you can list it. So I think that applies to stuff like if you made your own products, as a sort of, you know, like a handmade sort of manufacturer type process. I think that's fairly easy. But I'm falling in the middle. So there is a path for me to follow, which I've now largely followed, but it was a little convoluted, it took a little bit of working out, and it was a bit of a pain in the bum. Basically, because my products do not have these identifier numbers, you can get them, but it takes some time and you have to pay. And since this is a one-off discrete run that I'm doing, I didn't really want to lay out another couple of £100 or whatever it was to do it. So I don't have an identifier number, but the products are branded. So what I had to do in order to get an exemption for this GTIN number was to actually register Wavetiller as a trademark with the UK Intellectual Property Office, which all felt a little bit, you know, like too much of a big deal for selling a couple of 100 projector stands, but that was just what I had to do. So that got registered, but it went wrong and it had to get rectified, and I had to do it again because nothing ever goes straight forward. I had to do that so that I could then register my product with the Amazon brand registry. And once you've done that, which is now done, you can then select your own brand as you're going through this exemption process and get an exemption for that brand. So that's done. And where I'm actually at right now is that I've spent the last couple of days creating images for the listing, and they're finished. So when I finish this today, the next step is probably, I hope, going to be to actually make the Amazon listing live. So that's why I haven't sold any this month, and I have still no revenue to report. But that hopefully is going to change in literally the next few days. So then, only just a couple more things to talk about. How are we doing for time? 12 minutes, okay. Got to keep that energy up. So, reviewing the competitor stands, that's the other main thing that I have contributed towards Wave this month. I was going to do 3 products based in UK, like that are on amazon.co.uk, and 3 products that are on amazon.com. I've ended up having actually 7 in total, because there's one that I got and it's since kind of been removed off Amazon. I'm sort of hoping it comes back, so I ended up reviewing it anyway. And I've made and recorded all of those as single product reviews, videos this is. Obviously I'm going to have a written article for them too. And then I'm just at the moment in the middle of doing a roundup review where I'm going to review, I've decided, all 7 of them in the same video and therefore the same article. And that's just because whilst the initial idea and what I aimed to do with the stands that I bought was to have ones that are, well, I just wanted ones that were applicable for those 2 geographical markets, but the reality is there's an awful lot of similarities between what is sold in the UK and on the .com, and I think in the end I just decided it made more sense to just have one big long roundup review and just point out in the description of the video which is available in which country at the moment, and to actually try and update that once every few weeks to make sure it makes sense. And because that allows for things like on Amazon, obviously you get a lot of people who buy products from the same manufacturer and then just private label it, so it's identical apart from the name that's on it. And it would be a shame, or forget a shame. What that allows for is for me to do this 7 products roundup review and then just tweak it if products come and go. So if I name a manufacturer and then describe this, review this particular projector stand, and that seller, I think I said manufacturer, I should just say seller. If that seller then leaves Amazon, there's every chance that there will be another seller selling basically the exact same product just with a different name. So I might then just be able to, with a quick bit of editing, make it clear in the video that has happened, that the seller has changed but the product is identical, and actually what's the word? Make that content continue to be correct and relevant for much longer than it would be if you were actually relying on the seller sticking around. So I've not really made that very clear, but the point is, instead of having 2 different videos for 2 different geographies, I've decided to stick it all together and then just try and make sure each product in there is at all times pointing to the exact correct, or at least a physically identical product in both of those countries, because I think most of the time that is going to be possible. So that's nearly done. I will probably have finished filming that the Roundup review within about another 2 working days, and then I just need to write it up. And so all that work, the reviews, the single product reviews and the Roundup review, and the listing on Amazon, is probably all going to be sorted within about 3 or 4 working days from now. Which brings me to the final thing to talk about, which is the plan for the next bit of work to do with Wave, which is that I'm going to write a couple of articles designed to actually be interesting and worthy of a bit of outreach, because I don't have anything on the site like that at the moment. And those articles are going to be one about the entire Wave project, and I'm going to be focusing on the failures that I've experienced this year, of which there are many. There's loads to talk about that I've done wrong, and that won't come as any surprise if you've been following the fact that I've been working on it for months and haven't made any money. And then I'm also specifically going to do one about these built from scratch videos and how much they've taken to produce in terms of both financial resources and time resources, although much more time resources, and how it's very debatable what kind of value they are ever going to add. It's almost not debatable what value they've added so far. That is pretty much zero. Although they have led to the generation of the .site domain's one and only link, which gives me quite a nice headline for the article, which is probably going to be the most expensive link ever built. And I'm hoping that if I do a good job of writing those in a genuinely interesting way, if I put them out into the world, try and do a little bit of outreach, I might get a few links. And that would be great. But there's no point going into that. I can just talk about that when I've actually done it. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed that slightly more upbeat way of talking about things. I really need to try and do that in the future if I want anyone to ever care about watching these vids. So have a nice day, and I'll see you later.